This report of a UFO sighting, notable because passengers were clearly visible in its windows, bore a striking resemblance to other reports from Connecticut recorded 5 years earlier, thus warranting special attention. Its investigation was undertaken by prominent figures in the field of unidentified aerial phenomena studies. Richard Hall, former assistant director and then current consultant for the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, NICAP, and his colleague from the committee, Isabel Davis, known for her meticulous attention to detail. Their combined experience promised a thorough and impartial examination of the circumstances. A raw, cold night on December 15, 1957, had fallen upon the quiet town of Old Saybrook, Connecticut. Mrs. Mary Starr, a respected and educated woman, a former teacher with a degree from Yale University, was home alone. The day had been tiring, and deciding to replenish her strength, she had gone to bed earlier than usual, seeking to immerse herself in healing sleep. However, her peace was rudely shattered in the dead of night, sometime between 2 and 3 o'clock. A strange, unusually bright light seeped into her room, tearing her from the embrace of sleep. It was so intense that it flooded the space even through the heavy curtains. I sat bolt upright in bed, my heart pounding. Mrs. Starr later recounted to investigators Hall and Davis, her voice still trembling from the experience. My first thought was, fire. I jumped to the window overlooking the backyard and pulled back the curtain. And there I saw something that, at first, in my confusion, I mistook for the wreckage of a crashed airplane. But when the shock subsided a little, and I could look more closely, I realized it was something entirely different, unearthly. Before her, disturbing the peace and quiet of her backyard, hung an object. It had an elongated, cigar-like shape and emitted its own bright glow, which, however, was not blinding. Several square portholes were cut into its smooth, dark side, from which a softer, more inviting light emanated. The incredible thing was that this craft hovered silently right above her clotheslines, strung between the house and the shed. And the most astonishing thing, she continued, lowering her voice. Inside, behind those portholes, I clearly saw figures, people, or someone very much like them. The object hovered motionlessly no more than 3 meters from the wall of her house, filling the space between the residential structure and the utility building. It hung low, only about 1.5 meters above the ground, which was covered with a thin layer of December snow. Its dimensions were impressive. Its length, by her estimation, was between 6 and 9 meters. The color of the hull was dark gray, approaching black, without any identifying marks or inscriptions. The craft had no wings, no stabilizers, no visible engines or propellers, no protruding parts whatsoever that could explain its ability to levitate and maneuver. Through the internally lit square portholes, Mrs. Starr observed 2 figures. They were moving inside, seemingly moving towards each other in a confined space. I immediately noted how cramped it must be for them inside, she reported to Hall and Davis. Judging by how they moved and the volume they occupied relative to the visible part of the room, their height could not have been more than 1 meter. Perhaps they were even shorter. According to her description, these supposed UFO passengers occasionally raised their arms, and Mrs. Starr noticed a macabre detail. No hands were visible on these arms, as if the limbs were amputated or hidden by something. Their garments resembled thick, downward flaring jackets or tunics. But the strangest and most alarming thing about their appearance was their heads. They had an unnatural, almost geometric shape, square or, more accurately, rectangular, and glowed with some internal reddish-orange light. In the center of each such head, or perhaps helmet, a bright red lamp or luminous shone brightly. Mrs. Starr speculated that these might be complex helmets, concealing the true appearance of the beings. She could not see the lower part of their bodies, as it was either below the level of the portholes or hidden by some internal partitions. The woman saw no furnishings, no chairs, no instrument panels, no mechanisms of any kind inside the craft. Then, from somewhere in the left part of the cabin, a third being appeared, joining the other 2. Gripped by a mixture of fear and irresistible curiosity, Mrs. Starr pressed her face against the cold window pane, trying not to miss the slightest detail. At that very moment, as if reacting to her intense scrutiny, the portholes abruptly went dark. Simultaneously, The outer hull of the object flared up with an even brighter, almost blinding light. On its upper part, precisely in the center, a small antenna, about 15 centimeters long, extended. It vibrated minutely and sparked, scattering a shower of bright, sparkler-like sparks around it. This spectacular illumination lasted for about 5 minutes. Then the antenna retracted just as smoothly back into the hull. The craft began a slow, graceful movement, flying away along the same trajectory by which Mrs. Starr presumed it had approached her house. After flying a short distance, it made a sharp, almost instantaneous turn to the right at a 90-degree angle, a maneuver unthinkable for any known terrestrial technology. At that moment, having turned sideways to her, the object revealed that its cross-section was not round, but oval. Its hull changed color, becoming matte, grayish-blue, and bright lights of different colors snaked along its entire rim, like electrical discharges. Then the UFO swiftly dived downwards, after which it performed an undulating movement, perfectly following the contours of the terrain of a shallow hollow that ran near the house. After this incredible pirouette, it tilted sharply and, at a dizzying, incomprehensible speed, in complete, absolute silence, soared upwards and disappeared into the inky depths of the night sky. Mrs. Starr was aware that at this time of year, in winter, most of the neighboring houses were empty. Their owners used them as summer residences. Thus, she was the only one who witnessed this incredible and frightening event. However, she recalled that a few weeks before this incident, rumors and fragmentary talk had indeed circulated in the area about sightings of some unidentified objects in the sky, but at the time, she had not given them serious consideration. Given Mrs. Starr's impeccable reputation, her solid education and respected profession as a former teacher, and the complete absence of any obvious motives for fabricating such a complex and detailed story, neither Isabel Davis nor Richard Hall found any reason to doubt her sincerity. Her account was deemed credible and added to the NICAP archives as one of the most detailed and compelling reports of a close encounter with the unknown.